Story 1. We followed GPS onto a dirt road, but the trees never ended. This happened in the fall of 2019. My friend Lena and I were driving from Portland down to Mendocino for a friend's weekend getaway. We left after work on a Thursday evening to beat the weekend traffic, planning to stop halfway and crash at a cheap motel near the California border. Around 10 p.m. somewhere outside Grants Pass, the GPS rerouted us because of a supposed traffic accident. Instead of sticking to I-5, it suggested a smaller highway that looked like it'd save us 20 minutes. We were both tired, so we agreed. I wish we hadn't. It started as a paved county road, not well lit, but not suspicious either. We were surrounded by forest, tall pines on both sides, occasional gravel driveways breaking the tree line. After maybe 15 minutes, the road turned to dirt. We slowed down. I remember saying something like, "Do you want to turn back?" But Lena said we were only a couple miles from reconnecting with the highway. The GPS showed a straight shot through a short pass in the woods. The dirt road narrowed. The forest closed in tight. Our headlights caught branches brushing along the side view mirrors. It felt like the trees were pushing back. We kept going. About 10 minutes in, we passed a fork with a faded wooden sign, FR 4029, carved into it. Neither of us recognized it, but the GPS didn't seem to care. It just kept pointing straight ahead. I started to feel it first, a sort of disorientation, like the air had thickened. Every turn looked like the one before it. Every branch had the same sharp bend. We saw a boulder on the side of the road, rounded, mossy, cracked straight down the middle. Lena slowed and said, "Let's mark it." We got out. I scratched a shallow X into the bark of a tree just beside the rock, and Lena tied one of her red scrunchies around a lower branch. We stood there a moment listening. Nothing. No bugs, no wind, just the soft ticking of the engine cooling. Then we got back in the car. About half an hour later, longer than it should have taken, the GPS still said we had another 2 miles. The road looked exactly the same. We both felt it at the same time. I asked, "Didn't we already pass that?" And there it was, the same mossy boulder, same crack, same curve in the road, except this time the red scrunchie was gone, and the X I'd carved looked mirrored, like it had been reversed. Lena stopped the car. We sat there, staring at it, trying to come up with an explanation. "Maybe there's more than one," I said, even though I didn't believe it. "Some trail markers look the same, but the bark where I carved that X, I remembered the way it split when I dragged the key across it. This was the same tree, but something had changed." We drove on, slower this time. 10 minutes later, Lena said, "I think we passed that tree too." A fat fir with a hollowed-out trunk at the bottom, shaped like a mouth. It hadn't been there a moment ago. The road felt endless now. No turnoffs, no intersections, just trees everywhere. We drove for another 20 minutes. The GPS stopped showing progress. The arrow just hovered on the same patch of beige, no road names, no cell signal. We passed the rock again. This time, there was a black feather at the base of the tree. No scrunchie, no X. I wish I could describe what it felt like the forest was reconfiguring itself, like it knew we were trying to leave and was responding. At some point, we had to stop. We were both shaky. The dashboard clock said 11:47 p.m., but we'd been on that road for what felt like hours. Lena pulled to the side of the trail, if you could even call it that anymore, and turned off the engine. The headlights cut out. We were swallowed by blackness. Not darkness, blackness. No moon, no stars, just trees. We rolled down the windows. Dead air, no crickets, not even the breeze. I shouted, just to break the silence. "Hello?" The echo came back. Late. It bounced through the trees a half-second too slow, like something was listening, then repeating. Lena whispered, "Did you hear that?" We both did. The echo didn't sound like me. It was off, higher pitched. Not wrong, just not quite mine. I shouted again, "Hey, anyone out there?" Another delay. Then, "Anyone out there?" Same words, but the voice cracked on there, like it didn't know how to pronounce it. Lena gripped the steering wheel. I remember her knuckles going white. "I want to leave now," she said. We drove, no talking this time, just scanning the tree line for any sign of a house, a trailhead, anything. We passed the same hollow tree again. Now there were marks inside, scratches, vertical, like something had been dragged. Lena swerved at one point, breathing heavy. "I saw something move," she said. I didn't see it, but I believed her. A few minutes later, I asked her to stop again. I needed to make sure this was real, that we weren't just imagining it. I opened my door and stepped out. Leaves crunched beneath me. I walked a few feet from the car and yelled, "What do you want?" No answer. Then, maybe 20 seconds later, "What do you want?" But the voice was slower, strained. Not mine this time. It didn't sound angry. It sounded curious. I turned to run back to the car, but I paused. There were footsteps, not mine. Slow, measured, crunch, pause, crunch, behind me. I didn't turn around. I just walked fast, then ran. Slammed my door and screamed, "Go!" Lena drove, fast, no direction, just forward. The GPS had gone completely dark by now. I've read about something since. Recursive geographies. Terrain that loops on itself, not physically but perceptually. Most call it a mental fatigue thing. The brain misreads repeated patterns. Lost hikers sometimes circle the same grove of trees for hours and swear they were walking straight. But that doesn't explain what we saw next. After a while, we stopped again. Not out of choice. The car sputtered, the gas light blinking. We should have run out a long time ago. We were too scared to turn it off again. Lena kept the engine idling. We sat there, quiet. That's when I saw something through the windshield. Ahead of us, a blinking light. Not headlights, a signal. It was a yellow pedestrian crossing sign with a blinking LED at the top. We both stared at it. Then we noticed the road widening. And asphalt. Actual road. We pulled forward, and suddenly we were back on a paved 2-lane highway. No sign of where we'd come from. No dirt road behind us. Just an empty road cutting through pine trees under a cold night sky. Lena looked at the clock. It said 2:08 a.m. We'd entered the forest a little after 10 p.m. Somehow, we'd been out there for over 4 hours. But it didn't feel that long. Not to either of us. We checked the gas gauge. It read full, which was impossible. Lena remembered we were under a quarter tank when we turned off the highway. We didn't say anything, just drove until we saw the first motel, parked under a flickering sign that read, "Vacancy." Neither of us could sleep. We sat on the bed, didn't turn on the TV. The next morning we checked the map. There was no road between Grants Pass and the place we emerged. Nothing even close. Just a dense patch of undeveloped forest. When I zoomed in, I saw a grey line marked "Seasonal Use Only," not maintained. It didn't even have a name. I don't know where we were that night, but I don't think we were supposed to be there. We never told our friends what happened. Just said we got lost and had to stop for the night. I haven't driven that route since. Lena moved to Chicago a year later. We still talk sometimes. Neither of us brings it up. But every now and then, I'll get a text from her with a single line. "Do you remember the tree?" Story 2. She kept saying we'd been here before, but I'd never driven that road. This happened in late 2021, during a long weekend trip through rural Utah. My girlfriend at the time, Erin, had just started a new job, and we were trying to squeeze in one last road trip before her schedule locked us down. We took my car and headed south from Salt Lake, with the loose goal of making it to Monument Valley and back before Sunday night. It was Saturday morning. We'd stayed at a cheap lodge just outside of a town called Manti, and we were on the road by 9 a.m. The GPS plotted a scenic route down Highway 89, quiet, open, smooth. About 45 minutes in, Erin said something strange. "We've been here before." I asked what she meant. She looked out the window like she was searching for something in the trees. This curve, that green road sign, Monroe, 3 miles, and that rundown gas station with the Pepsi machine, it's all the same. I figured maybe she'd driven this road with her family before, but when I said that, she shook her head. No, I mean today. I mean, like, just now. I laughed lightly. Like, déjà vu. She didn't respond right away, just kept looking around. Then she said, "You're about to ask me what song stuck in my head." I frowned. What? But before I could say more, she added, "And I'm going to tell you it's that Florence song, the one about hurricanes." I stared at her, because that was what I'd been about to ask. I had noticed her lips moving, like she was mouthing lyrics, and the thought was right there. "What song are you thinking about?" I hadn't said it yet, not out loud. I let it go, or I tried to. About 15 minutes later, she started describing something else. A town, not one we were in, not one on the map. "You'll see," she said. "There's a town coming up called Delma, with a diner on the left side and a weird thrift shop with glass in the windows. But they're shut. No one's inside." I didn't see anything on the GPS. No town for another 30 miles. Still, I drove. Then, about 10 minutes later, we passed a green sign, Delma, Pop, 208. I slowed down, and there it was. A 2-lane main street, a squat diner with chipped teal paint and a hand-painted closed sign. Just past it, a small thrift store, covered in dust, windows intact, empty inside. I asked Erin how she knew. She shrugged. "I remembered it. You've never been here before." "I don't think I have. I don't know." We didn't talk for a while after that. The road started to change. Sections of fresh gravel, then orange cones. No workers, just cones lining both sides of a stretch of cracked pavement. Erin shifted in her seat. Quietly, she said, "I was wondering when the roadwork would start." I didn't answer. Not right away, but I remember gripping the wheel a little tighter. About 10 miles later, we stopped at a turnout to stretch our legs. I walked toward a patch of scrub just to pee. Erin stayed near the car, leaning against the hood. When I came back, she looked different, paler. "What?" I asked. She didn't answer at first. Then, "You said that exact word, just like that. Same tone, same pause. What are you talking about?" She looked me dead in the eye. "You said what?" Right after walking back. Then I say this part, "right now." I stood there, watching her, and she said, "You're going to pretend to check your phone next." I pulled my phone from my pocket and, without thinking, I swear it was unconscious, habit. I wasn't even looking for anything, just reacting. Then I realized what I was doing, and I dropped my hand. We didn't talk again for another half hour. Around noon, we passed a stretch of broken fencing and a faded billboard advertising Mel's Junction Cafe. Erin sat up straighter. "Pull in," she said. "Please." We were low on gas anyway, so I nodded. The diner sat just beyond the billboard, behind a narrow gravel loop. There were 2 pumps out front, ancient-looking, and a rusted-out red pickup parked near the side. I pulled in. As soon as I opened my door, a wave of stillness hit me. No wind, no bird sounds. Just the distant hum of some appliance inside. We walked in together. The bell above the door chimed, slow and mechanical. Inside, it was almost too familiar, more than it should have been. There was a long wooden counter with a register, a wall clock above it, black numbers, red second-hand, white face, and a jukebox in the corner that had been painted teal, same as the booths. I froze. "I've been here," I said. Erin turned. I walked toward the jukebox, not sure why. My chest felt tight, like the air was pushing in. The music playing, it was low, muffled under kitchen noise, but I knew the song. It was Stumbline by the Smashing Pumpkins. A track that wasn't a single, not something you'd hear on the radio, but it was mine in high school. I used to lie on the floor of my room with headphones on and cry to it after my dad left. I hadn't heard it in years. The register clicked. A woman with graying hair and a yellow apron appeared behind the counter. "Take any seat you like," she said. Voice flat, eyes tired. We sat in a booth near the window. The view looked out onto the road, except it didn't. It looked like the road, but the landscape didn't match. No hills, no trees, just asphalt and pale dirt on both sides. Nothing else. Erin kept glancing at the jukebox. "This part changes," she said. "What?" "This song. Right after this part of the bridge, it skips to the next one, like a glitch." I didn't believe her, until it did. Just before the guitar solo, the song cut out, not paused, skipped. The jukebox clicked twice, then played something else, a Patsy Cline track. Erin stared straight ahead. "I think we've done this before," she said. "I mean, this part, this place. Like a dream? Worse." She turned to me. "I think I remember leaving here, but we didn't go the same direction. Something happened. We turned back." "What happened?" She looked down. "I don't remember. The waitress brought water and menus. I noticed the menu had no prices, just dish names. We ordered coffee. While we waited, I got up and walked toward the restroom sign. Past the kitchen, there was a back hallway and a door marked "Employees Only." It was ajar. I pushed it open slightly. Inside, a storage room, shelves, boxes, nothing unusual, except the smell, like burnt sugar and vinegar. I heard something, a voice, quiet. It said, "You're not ready." I backed away, returned to the table. Erin didn't ask where I'd gone. The coffee came, we didn't drink it, we paid in cash and left. As I walked toward the car, I looked back. The jukebox was still playing, but the song was stumbling again, same exact part. There's a term I've read since, déjà vécu. It's not just déjà vu, it's deeper. The feeling that you've not only seen this before, but lived it emotionally, with all the weight and anticipation of something fully remembered. It's been recorded in cases of epileptic aura, but also among long-distance drivers, sleep-deprived travelers, and people crossing liminal spaces, places with no clear beginning or end. Roads, hallways, waiting rooms. Some neurologists think it's a misfire in the temporal lobe. Others suggest stress, lack of sleep. But there's a theory that sticks with me, that certain places, under the right conditions, can cause temporal folding. Not literal time travel, just loops, echoes, where the body and mind split for a moment and memory gets ahead of experience. When we left the diner, Erin didn't speak. She looked dazed, exhausted. I asked if she was okay. She said, "Don't turn around." I asked why. She didn't answer. We got back on the road. About 2 miles later, I noticed a small wooden sign at the edge of a turnout. I slowed to read it. White paint, faded red border. All caps. "You've come farther this time. Drive carefully." I stopped the car. Erin stared straight ahead. "You saw it too?" I asked. She nodded. "What does it mean?" She said, "I don't think we've ever seen that before." We didn't stop again. The road curved gently, then merged with a small highway. Cell signal returned. The GPS flickered back. We didn't talk much after that. When we finally got to Monument Valley, we didn't take pictures. Erin broke up with me a few weeks later. She said something had shifted on that trip, that things didn't feel right anymore. I think about that diner a lot. I tried finding it on maps, looking for Mel's Junction Cafe. Nothing comes up. Sometimes late at night I play that song again, Stumbline, but it never skips. It always plays straight through, which somehow makes it worse. Did you enjoy the content and it made a difference for you? Click on Super Thanks and support our work. Story 3. There was a motel off the highway that didn't exist in the morning. This happened in the summer of 2020, during one of those weird in-between phases of my life. I was driving cross-country with 2 friends, Mason and Ali. We'd all been laid off during the early pandemic months and decided to take a long road trip across the Southwest with no real destination, just something to do while the world felt paused. We were somewhere outside of Gallup, New Mexico, when we realized we needed to stop for the night. We'd passed the last town an hour ago and hadn't seen much since. Just long, dark stretches of road and the occasional flicker of headlights going the other way. I remember we were talking about where we'd sleep when the neon sign appeared through the windshield, just off the highway on the right. a squat green glow. Sundown Motel, vacancy. Mason pointed it out. Looks good enough. We turned off and followed the gravel path up to a one-story L-shaped building. Classic roadside layout, lobby at the corner, rows of doors in either direction, all under a faded awning. A vending machine buzzed quietly near the end. We went into the lobby. It was dim inside, with dusty vinyl chairs and a rack of faded local brochures from at least a decade ago. A middle-aged man behind the counter gave us a key without asking many questions. No ID, no deposit, just $40, cash only, and a nod. He handed us a rusted key on a green tag that said Room 12. That was it. The room was plain but usable. One queen bed, one fold-out cot, and a pull-out couch. The carpet was thin. The lamp in the corner buzzed if you looked at it wrong. But we were too tired to care. Mason took the cot. Ali and I shared the bed. We each passed out pretty quick. And then something strange happened. We all woke up at the same time. Not roughly the same. Exactly the same. I sat up thinking I'd heard a knock. Ali was already sitting up too, rubbing her arm. Mason, from the corner, said, "What time is it?" I checked my phone. 3:09 a.m. Then Ali said, "Ow," and looked down at her forearm. There were 3 scratches running diagonally across it, not deep, but sharp, fresh. And just beneath them were small impressions in the skin. They weren't from a pen. They weren't written. It was like her skin had been pressed against something. The shape was unmistakable. 12B. Mason looked at the key on the nightstand. It still read 12. No letter, just a room number. I went to the window and pulled the curtain aside. I don't know how to explain what I saw. The parking lot was still there, but it didn't look like before. The vending machine was gone, so was the car. There were lights, weak ones, blinking near the far end of the row of rooms, and something else. Another door. One we didn't remember seeing when we arrived. It was slightly open. Light spilled out, and above it a rusted plaque with faded black paint. I squinted. It said 12B. We all stood there for a while. No one moved. Ali kept looking at her arm, rubbing the skin like she could erase the imprint. Finally, Mason said, "Let's just ask the guy at the desk." I grabbed the room key and we stepped out into the corridor. The air smelled different now, sour, metallic. The night felt wrong, still, but in that thick, unnatural way. Like the quiet wasn't empty, like it was full of something we couldn't see yet. We walked to the lobby. The door was unlocked, but no one was inside. The lights were on, the brochures were still there, but the clerk was gone. There was no bell, no computer. Just an old receipt pad, torn halfway through the last page. I called out, "Hello?" No answer. I walked behind the counter. There was no phone, just a rotary base with no cord. Mason checked the back room. Nothing but an old wooden chair and an unplugged mini-fridge. Then Ali said, "Where's the door?" We turned. She was pointing at the wall behind us. The glass door we'd entered through earlier, the one with the sticker that read Visa and MasterCard accepted, was gone. In its place was a blank, windowless wall. There was no exit sign, no emergency light, just the hallway, the one leading deeper into the building. A hallway none of us had noticed before. It curved slightly, with pale green wallpaper and dim wall sconces that flickered every few seconds. Mason stepped toward it. I grabbed his arm. "We don't go down there." Ali didn't say anything. Then the light at the far end blinked, and a door opened. I swear I saw a figure. Just the shape of someone stepping back as the door creaked inward. Mason said, "I saw that." Ali looked at me. I nodded. We started walking, slowly, one foot after the other. Our shoes made no sound on the carpet, no echo, just the hum of the buzzing lights. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. I counted 8 doors, then 9, then 11. No numbers, just peeling paint and scratched brass handles. Then we saw it, 12B. The plaque was nailed to the door, but the lettering looked newer than the others, freshly painted, black on silver. The door was cracked open. Ali whispered, "I think it's for us." I touched the door frame. It felt warm. Inside was darkness, not just unlit, pitch black, like the room itself was empty of light. I reached for the switch just inside the door frame, flicked it. Nothing. I stepped inside, slowly, then Mason, then Ali. The door didn't slam, it just closed, softly, like someone had pulled it shut. Inside, the air was thick, close. It felt humid, like something had been breathing in there for hours. We saw shadows, faint ones. There was a bed, and someone lying on it. At first we froze, then I stepped closer. The figure on the bed, it was Ali, same face, same clothes. Her arm turned outward, showing fresh scratches. She was asleep. I turned around. Ali was gone. Mason stood behind me, eyes wide, mouth open. He couldn't speak. I reached for her shoulder, and she opened her eyes. But it wasn't Ali anymore. I can't describe it, not fully. Just that the eyes were wrong, clouded, a little too wide. She smiled. I pulled back. The lights came on all at once, too bright, flickering. And the room was empty again, no bed, no figure, just the three of us, standing in an empty space with peeling wallpaper. Ali was back, her face pale. "Let's go," she whispered. We turned. There was no door behind us, just a blank wall. There's a name for it. I didn't find it until months later. Non-registered structures, buildings, mostly along highways, that appear temporarily, motels, service stations, rest stops, places that seem functional but don't exist on record. No business license, no owner, and more importantly, no reappearance. Travelers report staying in these places, but when they return, they're gone. No foundation, no debris, just empty ground, like it was never there. Some think it's mass misremembering. Others blame sleep deprivation, but there are enough similar accounts to suggest something else. In every case, the people report the same details: unfamiliar exits, missing clocks, long hallways that didn't exist before, and something inside the building that seems to know them, something that reflects. I remember waking up to heat on my face. It was morning. The sun was in my eyes, blazing through the windshield. I sat up. I was in the car. Driver's seat reclined, keys in my lap. Mason was in the passenger seat, still asleep. Ali was curled up in the back. I looked around. There was no motel, just an empty dirt lot with some scattered beer cans and broken glass. I stepped out of the car. No tire tracks, no drive-in path, just our car, parked perfectly in the center, with dusty tire marks looping once around us, then stopping, not leading in, not leading out, just a circle. Ali woke up and said, "It's gone." I didn't ask how she knew. Mason got out next and stared at the nothing in front of us. We checked our phones, no photos, no texts. The last signal we had was from the day before. I tried to remember the name on the sign. Sundown Motel. I looked it up later. Nothing. Not in Gallup. Not in all of New Mexico. We didn't talk about it for a while. I kept the room key, green tag, number 12. Just 12, no B. But sometimes when I can't sleep, I take it out and hold it under the light. And I swear, the metal cast two shadows.